Hello and welcome to Finite Space. This is a very new visual novel that literally just came out technically today, but it actually came out yesterday. Um, so I don't know anything about it. I'm assuming wolves in space. Character in the background is a human. Something about this little light connecting them both means he's probably your partner. Mm, really, that's all I know. You may or may not have heard about it. I heard about it when one of the sprites for this wolf dude came out, but I don't really have any idea what it's about. I think I know that they're in some sort of space academy, military, something, and that's about as much as I know. So your guess is as good as mine. Anywho, yeah, I guess there really isn't that much to say, so why don't we just start and see what the story is about? New user detected. Thank you for your purchase, and welcome to Starlight Tactiles. To register your profile, please enter your name. Is there a default? Thank you, Corwin Stringer, for your business. Your new Instanet connector has accepted your biometric imprint. Your STIC is running on an outdated operating system. Connecting to the Instanet for updates. Updated. All files verified. Starlight Tactiles, keeping you in touch with the galaxy and beyond for over a millennia. Welcome and enjoy.
Fulgor Prime. Millennia ago, the Lupine people looked up to the stars with a collective hope. To meet and befriend all peoples they could find in this finite galaxy we call home. And so they did. They were the first to reach outside of their system and began to form connections with other planets and races. In time, the Asterism Union was born, a galaxy-spanning coalition of people and planets, as numerous and diverse as the stars we all call home. It had a noble purpose: to share, to coexist, to bridge and come together, to far exceed the sum of our parts, and elevate one another to truly dazzling heights. The plague tried to stop this dream. They came without warning, deep into our systems and worlds, hungry for our resources. Truly alien, impenitent, and unrelenting devourers. They harvested our planets like ripe crops, dredged our oceans, and consumed our virtuous people for reasons beyond understanding. They denied all hails and pleas to stop. They attacked any who dared oppose them, and they disappeared with their ill-gotten gains like ghosts. We were unprepared for and defenseless against such foes. Thus, the Union's great minds came together once more, this time with the purpose to defend and protect us all. The answer was the forming of the Knights of the Asterism Union, the brave and stalwart individuals from all systems who put their lives on the line to push back this insidious threat. From our logistical division known as the Castle to our keen-eyed archers, the KAU employs any with the will and desire to stand against these despicable invaders. The pride of our forces, the cavalry, leads our valiant soldiers as the vanguard. They pierce through the plague as the first responders to any appearance of the malicious locusts. They cannot do it alone. Much as the Asterism Union cannot thrive as parts, we must come together now more than ever. All walks of life, any person who feels the passion to stand up for what is right and true can be an asset. Stand up for your friends, stand up for your family, stand up for freedom and against the plague's tyranny. Stand with us.
As the Asterium Union fleet makes its way onto Tuforo, our quaint system welcomes them with open arms and bids them a pleasant stay. Their efforts against the plague's reaping almost 2 decades ago show that even the most far-flung planets are still important to and cared for by the Union. Fuck. Oh, damn. More. As our humble yet brave pages that are ascending to become squires leave us for further duty, we ask of you to stay true to your roots, remember what happened here and make us all proud. I'm I'm close. Fuck. Corwin, I'm gonna. The droning of the patriotic speech I was half listening to fades away as Maros squirms beneath me. His breathing hitches as he spasms. He clenches his eyes shut as he groans and mews as warmth spurts and splatters between us. His insides tighten like a vice. I can't help but follow suit with a more lazy thrusts and my own groans of satisfaction. Yeah, there we go. Fuck. I lean down and then plant a kiss on his soft feline lips. The tickle of his whiskers fluttering against my cheeks always makes me grin. He looks at me with a bittersweet smile and eventually pushes against my chest. That was great. Now go on. Get off of me and throw me a towel. I swear, the worst part of your insatiable appetite is how often I have to shower. I'm going to enjoy not having to worry about the water rations with you gone. He might be joking, but his voice cracking at the end makes it clear that he's trying to put on a brave face. Others have come and gone, but Moros, we've been with each other through everything, and we both know that we're going to miss the shit out of each other. I pull out of him slowly, catching as much of the mess as I can on the sheets. Grabbing a towel from his neat rack, I toss it to him, giving him my own faux jovial smile. You'd best enjoy it while it lasts. In a few years, you'll be right back at my side. Then all the showers will be on KAU time, and we can resume indulging in as many study sessions as we'd like. Not even the afterglow from our messy, last-minute fun is enough to dull the ache in my chest. Damn, I'm gonna miss him so much. Whilst the sexual aspect was fun to blow off steam, my friendship with Maros was the one constant that I've had for years, and the feeling of loss and separation was still a bittersweet. Maros busies himself with cleaning up before looking at me with sharp eyes. I want to hear everything. You'll get to actually be up close to active duty ships. Some Frisians, surely a Marwari or two, maybe even an Andalusian ship class. My jealousy knows no bounds. Maro swoons at the thought. He's back into his starship obsession, which makes a goodbye easier. Not to mention the dropships. What I wouldn't give to just examine one of those engines. Ah, I can hardly wait. As he looks off dreamily, I know that I've lost him. I feel like I have soaked up enough by osmosis that I could probably bore someone else in his stead. The reason that I passed my writing exams was mostly likely due to how much he talked about them. As he continues to talk about gravitational slingshots and system jumps, I gather my clothes and redress. It might have been unplanned, but I am glad that we have a good romp before I left. I know most of the time Marls just puts up with my libido, but I know that he enjoys the send-off as much as I did. I hope he finds a good replacement while I am away. Everyone needs to unwind every now and then. Speaking of... Okay, Mar, I get it. I promise that I will chat as much as I am allowed, but don't be disappointed if I can't do much. I'm sure that there will be all kinds of restrictions, and I won't be able to tell you everything. I promise that I will try. He looks crestfallen for a second before he perks back up. I understand. I just wish that I was getting deployed this time around, too. Be a weight off my mind if I could get hands-on with a steed that you'll be finding yourself about in. Looking at decades-old designs, hollows of ships, doesn't cut it. He grumbles, but that is just his way. Part worried, part jealous. Maros wasn't ready for all the practical exams this year to be able to enlist. Even though I had scored higher than I ever had in practice, I still came close to not making the deadline. I couldn't spend 4 more years waiting. I need this. Maros knows. We don't need to talk about it, and I am thankful for that. After I finish putting my pants back on, I check my small pack of belongings. While the clothes that I had on were the nicest I own, they are far from new. Once we begin our final approach, I'll change into my crisp, new uniform. As nervous as I am about becoming a KAU Squire, the rippling feeling of excitement and anticipation is stronger. Constantly, I find myself checking the vacuum-sealed package to make sure that it is still real. A small beep from my STIK indicates the fleet's departure is approaching, and I have to leave. I snatch it up from the dresser and then quickly deactivate the leader's spiel about looking, flicking the device's tactile nodes to shut down the holo display. My fingers run over the biggest notch it has, a deep gouge that runs a few inches along its left side. Among the many scars the device has gathered, it was certainly the most memorable, something that I touched absent-mindedly like worrying a loose tooth. Maros pounces on my back and wraps me in his version of a strong embrace, pulling me out of my thoughts. Send me a quantum message when you touch down, alright? Even if it's redacted and all that. Just let me know how things are. He lets go to look at me with those kitten eyes he does, and my mouth tugs into a smile. Of course I will, Mar. Don't worry. I may be going far, but I'll still think about this backwater system, at least once in a while. But yes, I will message you as soon as I am there. I promise. I give him one more hug, this time facing him, before parting. I know that I can't drag this out any further, so I make for the door. I feel a lump in my throat, but I cough it down. As I pull the door ajar and give Maros a final look back, he waves and then shoos me off. With that, I turn and leave. The transit gets me to the port fast enough. I spend my time staring at our planet below. It feels so close, yet so distant. As much as I miss it, being relocated to the moon has its benefits. The fact that I don't have to ride one of these barely held together shuttles up here certainly makes the difference. Even now, I can see the cracked and barren side of the planet that the plague attacked. It's a scar that will perhaps take her entire life cycle to fully recover from. Bubbling rage starts to well up. My hands clench the armrest in anger. Arriving at the inner system port. All transfers and destinations outside of Faro alight here. The loudspeaker announcement pulls me from my fixation, and I finally look away, getting up and grabbing my meager belongings. I join the bustle of others making their way out. Seeing the Ark ship always takes my breath away. The colossal fleet vessel stands gleaming and imperial, dwarfing the other ships in the port. Marles and I came every quadrennial to see it, and dreamt of the day that we would be leaving on it. It stung that we aren't both going, but seeing what I had worked so hard for finally makes me buzz with excitement. Approaching the ship, I see large containers being offloaded. Their contents will be distributed to the populace. The Union's aid allows us to keep colonizing the possible living space on the moon, as well as assisting the revitalization efforts planet-side. I straighten my back proudly as I step forward with greater purpose. I am now part of the fleet proper, even if the actual change of classification will come on Osid. I see the entrance where the new Squires enter, and I make my way over, and Urson checks me off on her list. An innocuous podium with a glossy panel stands beside her, a marker outlining an area for scanning. I place my palm on the waiting device and force myself to not wince as the needle pierces my wrist, taking the required blood sample. I've seen this test happen before, and part of me wants my first point of contact with the Knights to be a strong one. Whether or not she was impressed, the large Knight does not show it. She focuses on looking over the readout from my vitals, showing no hazards or pathogens in my body. The Ursarin waves me through with her curt nod, which I return. After I head inside, I turn my head, just enough to give my home a final look before the door blocks it from view. The journey from Foro is quick. Being one of the farthest flung systems in the galaxy means that the Ark ship would have picked up all other new Squires along the way, with us as a final stop. Because of that, I missed out on having time to get acquainted, form friendships, or get to know possible bunkmates. Rotten luck. The ship departs the port soon after I board, with the announcement of entering Exceed soon. We are ordered to enter our quarters and prepare for the jump. Now, there's not even a chance to scope out anyone out. Double bad luck. My cabin looks like it would have been comfortable had I longer to use it. My eyes linger on the sizable bed, and I offer a silent apology. After storing my pack in the locker, I secure myself into the chair. The straps automatically coil around me, locking into place. Once the bands are tight and I see their color change to an all-clear green, I realize that I'm holding my breath. I exhale and then force myself to take deep, calming breaths. Whilst page training had prepared me for all kinds of faster-than-light travel, this would be my first Exceed jump. I jolt as I feel the hum of the engines rumbling to life as the ship starts to move. I keep my focus on the doors ahead. I stare at a fixed point as I control my breathing. The burst of speed is expected, but still rattles my entire body as the ship lurches forward. A ripple of energy passes through the ship, and then everything is silent. We exceed, collapsing several star systems worth of travel into a moment. It feels almost out of body, or like sensory deprivation. The sensations of touch and hearing are taken from me. I'm glad that I had a light breakfast as I feel my insides squirm, but I continue focusing on my breathing and staring at the door to reel in it. It feels like days pass before we exceed, but it is normal to experience some temporal confusion. In reality, it had been no more than a few hours at best. A chime from above signals that we can get up. I unbuckle myself and stand shakily. Ugh, I am glad that I got through that without anyone watching, not eager to repeat that anytime soon. I stagger to the bathroom and gulp a few handfuls of water and slowly regulate my breathing. In, out. After a moment, I feel more centered as I return to the room. That was interesting, in a twisted, inside-out kind of way. Better change now then, and see if we are planet-side. Rescuing my pack, I unzip the duffel and remove the neat parcel of my uniform, still in the plastic it arrived in. I lay the various sets out on the sadly unsullied bed. Thoughts of team bonding with some of my fellow recruits dance briefly in my mind. I dismiss them in favor of the task at hand. Running my fingers along the sleek under armor I will be wearing for combat and active duty, I am tempted to try it on. I smile at the thought of the brutal training that we will be undertaking in preparation to serve our knights. In time, yes. For now, I focus on the dress uniform. I considered changing once in my assigned station, but I don't want anyone making assumptions based on the state of my personal clothes before we even begin. Humans are rare enough to join a combat corps division, let alone the cavalry. I can't help but brim with pride as I thumb over the insignia that tells everyone that I am a squire of the cavalry. They are the best of the best and the leading force against the plague threat. All that training, all those extra hours practicing and honing my skills, pushing myself further than I thought I ever could. This symbol is a culmination of all of that hard work. An announcement from above states that we are coming into orbit around the Fulgar Osid, and that we should prepare to touch down within the hour. I hurry to take off my clothes and then dash to the shower in the corner. I want to view the descent as much as possible. By the time that I get into my uniform and head out to the main deck, we're already moving into an entry descent. Still, I drink in the sight greedily. Osid, one of the 4 main lupine-settled planets outside of their home system. The terraforming is beyond belief. Not even a hint of the inhospitable rock that they found is still visible. Even from orbit, the lush green lands and the full oceans beggar the belief, as if they've painted them. The lupines are always present as lovers of nature's settings, but this truly feels utopian. Passing by us in full orbit is the floating satellite city, Belvos, which serves as the first line of defense against possible attacks. There, all levels of the fleet train for special engagements, from learning zero-gravity maneuvers to omnidirectional awareness. There will be a lot of brand new sensations to grasp and master. I try to recall all the different things that I read about OSID as we descend faster, the notable land masses, climates, and environments, but it all blurs together in my excitement. The destination swelling into view is all that I can stare at. The Den. The KAU city, Densis, or the Den as it is commonly known, is home to the squires and knights from all over the quadrant. Housing all divisions as well as being a key strategic location for the fleet to engage from, the facility in the outer city at large is fully geared to launch immediate action when needed. The Den is home to top-of-the-line training facilities, technological maneuvers as well as the host of bars, eateries, and other off-duty entertainment. I can see others staring and admiring as we speed down smoothly, even with the size of our vessel. I am distantly impressed by the piloting. Prepare to disembark the Ark. Collect all belongings. Cabins left outside of KAU standards will incur a demerit. I see a few squires make hastes back below deck to tidy their quarters. I didn't have the opportunity to make mine a mess. Even then, I smoothed over the bedding and straightened up the bathroom before coming out. Looking around to spot potential rivals or maybe some sparring partners, I see that only a few have donned their uniforms. Just seeing how fancy some of the civilian clothes look, I can tell many come from much larger and richer systems. Others come from prestigious families or clans, no doubt. I like how I look in uniform, I stroke the fabric again to reassure myself that I belong here. With another announcement telling us that we are about to dock, I turn sharply on my heels, hoist my pack up over my shoulder, and then stride for the exit. Walking through the tunnels that leads out into the training facility, I gulp. The sound of footfalls echo around me, matching my erratic beating heart as we reach the opening. Stepping into the light, I blink out the bright sun as a courtyard spans before us. The looming building shines and glimmers, its curved shape fitted against the lush open area. A water feature cascades down one face, and turbines turn lazily in the breeze. Uniformed squires stand against some manner of apertures, calling us over. I'm taking it all in when I feel an impact from behind. Just as I start to stumble, someone firmly grabs me by the elbow. With that, I catch myself and turn to see my assailant. My apologies. I was not looking where I was going. Are you alright? The objection dies in my mouth as I see the large blue form before me. Immediately, I am reminded of Morrow's from those whiskers, but the specimen makes Morrow look like a kitten. His piercing eyes stare at me with a mixture of concern and mild impatience. Giving his tail flicks, I assume more of the latter. We both are being left to the side as the others push forward. Yeah, sorry. I was lost taking it in. It was my fault. I stumble over an apology, but the spotted individual doesn't seem to mind, or doesn't care. He turns to look at the line forming in front of the building. It is quite alright. We should hurry, though. I'd rather get into the complex before the lines get too long. You will have more time to admire the scenery later. Giving me a polite smile, the feline turns and starts to walk away. Muscular yet Lilith, long, thick-looking fur. Perhaps he is from a colder system? The big tail suggests it, too. I have to shake my head to stop from just staring. I jog to join the others being verified. As I approach the front of the queue, I am greeted by an avian using a wristband STIK to verify all persons entering. Name? Corwin Stringer, sir. I straighten my posture as I answer them. I check on the display and they nod in confirmation. They then gesture towards the squat device to their side. It is about waist-high, smooth, metallic, and has a singular slot on the top. The Squire taps it, slightly impatient. Pop your STIK in the slot for it to be remodeled. Remodeled? What does that mean? I run my fingers over my scarred and admittedly older device. Even if I could afford a newer model, I'd keep this one. It means a lot to me. Look, it's necessary. This will clean it up, scan it for faults and malicious programs, and then update it with the KAU firmware and encryptions. It will take not but a moment. They look as if they've explained this multiple times today. Although I am hesitant, I don't want to hold everyone up. I place my STIK into the slot, which sucks it in. After the machine lights up and vibrates softly, I hear a whirling of mechanisms inside. Then a dull beep chimes. Out slides my new STIK. I scrutinize it immediately. It looks mostly the same. The main body is now matte and gray, with the gold edging to the interfaces and tactile inputs. It looks good, but I still handle it with some trepidation. All the marks and scuffs are gone, except... Yes, the notch down the left side is still there. I smile. It looks like some scars stand up to even the fleet's impressive scrubbing. A soft squawk gets my attention. Yes, it's very nice now. Enter here and head down to the far room for orientation and nightly assignment. That gets my attention. I knew a squire's duty was to a knight, and to attend to them in daily life and combat, but I did not know that we would be assigned immediately. I'm about to open my mouth to ask, but I can see that they have had enough. I march past into the building without holding them up further. My heart flutters again, apprehension building in my chest. I assumed that we would be chosen by a knight after being trained up, maybe in some showcase or display of our skills. The fact that I come from a nowhere planet on the fringes with no standing makes me nervous that I will be chosen last, or worse, not chosen at all. What would happen? Would I be shunned into another division, or would I have to wait for a knight to eventually choose me, like an orphan outstaying their younger peers? My eyes threaten to tear up at that thought, and I force the feeling down. No, I worked hard. I deserve to be here, just as much as any fancy folk or prestigious clan. I can't really take in the hallways as I have my breakdown, but the interior is as sleek and smooth as the exterior. Some sort of guidance system within the black flooring illuminates a path, In my headspace, I have been following it on autopilot to avoid getting lost or entering a wrong room. A soft whoosh comes from a rail-mounted carrier box as it zips past me. The ceiling tiles open and then slide back into perfect position after it passes. I wonder how much this place must have cost to build and upkeep. Just another thing that makes me feel out of place. I don't have much time to wallow though. The door that I've been led to appears to be my destination. I take another quick breath before entering, refusing to let anyone see my nerves. The room is far larger than I had at first assumed. It looks like a training room. I can see various panels lining the walls that probably housed hidden mechanisms. There are large sections of the floor that look like they could be removed or retracted to reveal alternate terrain or something else underneath. The room has a telltale smell of sweat and blood from years' worth of bodies that is so ingrained, even the most stringent of chemicals could not erase it entirely. There are about 24 people in the room. They're waiting with little enough conversation that my entrance is noted by everyone immediately. A few curious looks, a few confused. I can see that the general thoughts is that I had wandered in by accident. One lupine male, in particular, looks at me condescendingly. His muzzle pulls back in the start of some sneering comment. As his eyes dart over my uniform and he sees the cavalry insignia, his maw shuts and then he turns away with a disappointed huff. His jab would have been found elsewhere, it seems. Or maybe I had misjudged. He is in the uniform and looks the part, even if he had folded his arms and stares away. I do not give him much mind. Scanning around, I am pleasantly surprised to see the blue-furred guy, who'd almost knocked me over. In the kerfuffle, I didn't have the chance to check which division he was in. I give him a nod. He returns it with a hint of a quizzical smile. I don't get a chance to say anything as a blur of orange enters my field of vision. I am suddenly looking into the chest of someone thrusting themselves into my personal space. Welcome, fellow Squire. It is good to meet you. I am Zarya, Rexus of Larian, 5th planet in the Crown System, and representative of the Tigris delegation. I hope that we can become good companions. The woman before me looks at me curiously. She's so upfront and honest that I do not feel any hint of derision in her tone. Corwin Stringer, of Foro. I hope that we can get along as well. I fumble a far less impressive introduction, but she doesn't seem to mind as she just breezes past it. I see from a few others' expressions that they all seem to have had this interaction. Corwin! Great! The pleasure is mine! She holds out her paw. I notice that her paws, indeed both arms, are comprised of some sort of metal or ceramic material that runs up to her shoulders. As I take her paw and shake it, the intense grip and the small motorized movements make me realize her arms are cybernetic. I wince from the tight grip, but maintain the shake as strong as I can. Zarya appears happy with this. She releases my hand before she turns back to her spot by the door. As I see her lie in wait, it dawns on me that she likes to be able to ambush new entrants as soon as they enter. I move further into the room. A few moments later, I hear her greet another entrant. I turn to see and see a rather cute bear. Built with a distinct paunch, he seems as disarmed as I am. Oh, I'm Gladius Rondus, from the 5th moon of Arian, of the Urson system. Is that okay? He squeaks out his introduction. Zarya goes in for her handshake, witnessing it now rather than being subjected to it. I feel it actually helps a lot. She may well be greeting everyone to help break the ice and nerves, even if there's still tension in the room. She resets everyone's state by frazzling them. I commend her strangely subtle kindness, and I am interested to talk to her again. The bear shuffles to the side and tries to look inconspicuous, which is harder to do given his overall size. Cute. I cut off from my staring as I hear the door open again. Everyone stiffens up and stands to attention, and we see them enter. Led by a wolf that could only be described as impressive, the cavalry knights stride in. Seeing them makes my stomach do backflips. They're the heroes of the galaxy, frontline against the plague, and the whole reason that we're here. It takes all that I have to keep myself at attention and not gawk. The lead wolf moves to stand in front of everyone and looks us up and down silently. He paces back and forth in a line, as if assessing meat on the block. I stare ahead and wait. He eventually steps back to the center and addresses us all. If you are standing here, I am supposed to congratulate you all for passing the grueling tests and requirements that the Union sets down. His eyes scan along the line of squires again, waiting, gauging. To me, all that means is that you earn the right to walk through the door. I don't care how impressive you were on your home worlds. He starts pacing again. We listen silently. I don't care how many accolades you had. I don't care if you were the top of your class, or if you think that you're hot shit. Here, you are the bottom of the bottom on the rung. The wolf's eyes scour for any sign of breaking or weakness as he continues. You may have some fairy tale notion that you are going to be some gallant knight who saves the galaxy from evil, returning home to parades and celebration. I inwardly flinch. I'd be lying if I said that I hadn't had a few daydreams about just that. I am here to shatter those illusions. We are at war. He slams his foot down to emphasize his point. He is so strong that I can feel it. If you are lucky, you may save some lives. If you are brave enough, you may well help those of us, your knights, who will actually fight to stop a planet from being too ravaged. My stomach starts to knot. It takes all of my effort to remain staring forwards as he rants. Get it out of your heads that you are anything more than walking batteries right now. You are here to keep us standing. We will be the ones saving lives. I'll be damned if I lose a single night because someone had the fanciful idea that this was going to be a cakewalk. He finishes as he whirls around from his pacing. He's right next to me. I can see his chest rising and falling from the passion of his speech. He's looking at me, but I keep my gaze fixed squarely forward. There you have it. Your inspirational welcome speech. Congratulations, pages. As of now, you are all officially squires. His voice is dripping with sarcasm, and I can't tell if he's just trying to make sure that we're serious, or if he's actually an asshole. You will serve a knight from now on until you give up, die, or graduate to knighthood. I know, statistically, that the first is most likely, and the second is sadly too close behind. You will learn from us, live with us. You will breathe and eat and shit by our discretion. You will pay attention and keep up. Maybe you will be of use to us. Do I make myself clear? Yes, sir. We bellow loudly, though I thought that I heard at least a few voices break in the midst. We shall see. I am, if you are totally unaware, Knight Commander of the Osid Cavalry, Fen Orion. It is my sorry responsibility to keep this quadrant safe. He looks around at all of us again. And you will give me every iota of effort that exists in those bodies of yours. I do not tolerate failure. Failure means the plague wins, and I will not allow that. Understood? Yes, sir! This time the call was much more in unison and true. We all want the plague defeated. That much would be true for any squire, but more so for any attempting to join the cavalry. At least you have lungs. Right. I shall call your name, and you will join the knight I call afterwards. This is news to me. I wanted to distance myself from Forel before the selection took place, and be judged fairly. The thought makes me sweat a bit. These decisions have already been made by the people far more intelligent than yourselves. I will not hear even a whimper of complaint, right? Yes, sir! I feel the nervous excitement bubbling around the room. Whilst it was intimidating and scary to think that we had already been paired with a knight to serve, it was almost what we all had been dreaming of. At least it was for me. Looking around, I see the commander's fearsome speech had not quelled the excitement in most. He starts going down the list on his STIK. Each time a name is read off, a new squire steps forward. In turn, their knight is called forth, and they grasp each other's arm in a traditional greeting. Brute Cerberus. The standoffish wolf squire who sneered at me steps forward, muzzle held high. You're mine. Come here. The commander points to a spot next to him. Brute then goes to stand before him, waiting with his arm extended. Fen stares at Brute for a cold second before gripping his arm and then yanking him closer. Fen dips his head forward to the other's left ear, which twitches. I don't hear what is said, but Brute nods sharply and then steps in line behind his knight. My curiosity is piqued. To make a show of it must mean something. Fen lists off name after name, and one by one the herd starts to thin. Of the few that I know, I watch for who they are paired with. Alexandrite Cronus? The spotted male that I'd seen side-eyeing steps up. His movements are very measured and graceful. Squire tonight, cannon tops. An Ursarin knight steps forward. His looming size is quite imposing, but the kind smile on his face as he grasps his squire's arm makes him look approachable. The two of them step back into line together. Alexandrite looks pleased. I don't know the knight by name, but his presence is formidable. His arms are bigger than my head. I would not like to be crushed by those arms. Or would I? Who am I kidding? I would love it, especially pressed up against the belly. Zara Melruxus, Squire tonight, Cyrux the Mawful. I snap my head from the ogling the bear to the tiger stepping forward, but I am not interested in her. Stepping forward to greet her is the knight in question, and my jaw drops. His height is staggering. He's covered in red scales and doesn't look like he has an ounce of fat on him. The impressive Drake grins down at the tiger, who returns his with equal mirth. Her tail twitches happily, and they look perfectly matched. I've heard of Cyrox, although I have never met a Drake before. I can tell that he is an amazing specimen just by looking, respectfully. I recall seeing his beaming face in the pictures on Foro after the incursion. Seeing him in person is certainly an unexpected treat. The list continues, and the few remaining squires are dealt out. I know my name will be called eventually, but it still feels a lot like being chosen last for sports again. Gladius Rondus, Squire tonight, Captain Jays. This noteworthy announcement is for the nervous bear who came in last. He looks conflicted. I understand, though, as he steps forward. Knight captains were always second in command and exclusively pilots for the dropships. As a squire to one, Gladius would be in a more support-oriented role. As he moves up, his knight does as well. At first, I wonder what I'm looking at, but then I realize that the knight has graft arms on their back. It gives the illusion of them being a four-armed beast. We had a few procynoids on Foro, so seeing a raccoon knight was a pleasing sight. They study Gladius silently before offering a mechanical arm for the shake. Maybe the knight captain isn't one for physical contact. Gladius takes it nervously, and then the pair awkwardly move back into position. Now there is a sea of paired knights and squires in front of me, and only a handful of lone squires left. My anxiety starts to pump my heart harder and louder. The fear of being left out and possibly just dismissed dominates my mind. What if there was a mistake, and I was left knightless, transferred to another division, or sent back to Foro as some clerical error? I spend all my energy resisting the urge to fidget, keeping my impression neutral and facing forward. He's gonna call my name. He has to, right? I can't be the only one left standing. What if he doesn't? I need this. Corwin Strider. I snap out of my spiral as the commander calls me. My muscles barely listened to me as I force myself to respond and move to stand in front of him. My heart pounds in my ears. He called me, right? He's staring at me with an indiscernible look. I think about stepping back into line. Maybe I've made a mistake. Maybe he truly didn't call me and I imagined it all. He starts to open his mouth and I assume that I'm about to be reprimanded. Squire tonight, Calbex, Auriga. I hear the faintest murmur and breaking of ranks from those around me. The name is well known, as I understand their anticipation. Former commander and an elite cavalry knight, Calbex Auriga, is one of the most decorated knights in the fleet. He had dropped out of active duty some time ago. I was not aware that he was back. By the reaction from the rest of the room, it appears that many others are not either. I stand at attention and wait. I hear footsteps first. Excitement rises up to meet the anxiety and nerves that are already sky high. Then he's there, passing through the ranks and coming to the front. I see the damage right away. He has scars all over from years of pushing the plague back, not to say that any of the knights were immaculate so far. He looks serious, but there is something else in his expression as well. Apprehension, reluctance. I can't quite place it. Before I can really consider it more, he offers his right arm to me. I look at it for the briefest of moments. I want to savor this, but I also do not want to wish to make a show of it. I grab his arm and clasp it firmly. He returns with a strong grip. It's not challenging or testing, which I appreciate. He releases me and then starts to walk back into formation, towards the back. I hasten to follow him. I want to jump and whoop, but that can certainly wait until I am alone. For the moment, we stand next to one another as the final few squires are assigned. I check out my knight from the corner of my eyes. He stares straight ahead, face impassive. I am certain that he's done this so many times. It must be boring. He's at least a foot taller than me. His fur on the side facing me is well groomed and tidy, although his paw hangs loosely in a relaxed posture. His back is straight, and his stance is well practiced and perfect. I might be biased towards the knight that I was assigned, but I can't help feeling extra proud that I have been given such an obviously superior choice. After the final name is called, Commander Fenn steps forward, pivots on the spot, and then surveys us from our new positions. All of you standing next to your knights, recall your training. Do not fuck up. You are here to serve them, morning, noon, and night. Between trainings, you are at their beck and call. I will not take any grumbles or complaints. The easy part is over. Now, we will whip you up into shape. Follow orders and do better than your best. Now move out. After his final command, he turns and then marches out of the room. Brute follows swiftly after. We then file out and follow our respective knights. As the commander said, we squires stand beside our knights, not only in battle but also as support. We will do their cooking, cleaning, and will maintain their armor and weapons. The list goes on. Learning under a knight also meant living in their home. The thought makes me feel odd. It has been so long since I've lived in an actual house. I return to examine Kalbix instead of worrying as I follow him. His long gait requires me to quick march to keep pace. He has not spoken to me yet, but he just might be that type of knight. Although I knew of him in a general sense, he never appeared in any interviews or speeches that the fleet distributed in an attempt to make the galaxy feel safer. The silence gets the best of me before too long. So, Knight Auriga, sir? It is a great honor to be under your service. I will do my utmost to complete our tasks to the best of my ability. I stumble over my words a little, feeling the heat of the embarrassment cover my cheeks. Kalbix turns his head to look at me as he continues to march forward, though I note his pace slows slightly. Just Kalbix is fine. While his tone is cold and his deep voice is quiet, I can hear him clearly. I understand the formality in public, but beyond that, you don't need to be so stiff. I don't want to feel uncomfortable in my own home. I think you'd feel the same. I'm not sure that he's testing me, but it does make sense. I remain quiet and follow. As for your duties, there's not much that I require. I do not want another squire. The command demands it, and I follow orders. I'm taken aback. If he doesn't want another squire, then why am I even here? He doesn't strike me as someone who shirks their duty. Had he grown tired of the war and was waiting for dismissal? My heart sinks, but I also feel a flare of anger. Well, not... Kalbix? I have to serve and I am going to, whether you like it or not. I am not going to let myself fall behind anyone else because you don't like your boots being polished. Kalbix glances my way again. His face is so hard to read that it's starting to piss me off. You can perform your duties, just... I have lived alone for a while. I don't need to be waited on as attentively as other knights do. He sounds almost somber. However, I am still riding the red mist as I wonder if I am being pushed onto him because they expect so little of me. Well, good. I will do what I can, but don't think that I won't attend to you as thoroughly as other squires would. I am going to become the best cavalry knight there ever was and end this war. The wolf stops and turns to stare at me. Once more, I am not sure if he is angry, sad, or dismissive. Damn his face. His bloody handsome face. This isn't some game to win. People will die, and you may join them. If you truly want to help others, make sure you survive first and foremost. We're here. I've been so wrapped up in fuming that I didn't notice where I've been led. Looking to where he was turned towards, I see the knight's abode. When you reach knighthood, you are given a reasonable, private dwelling where you are stationed. Kalbix's home makes the apartments on Forel look like hovels. A two-story house stands before us. I can see an outside garden and what looks like a training yard round back, peeking through the hedgerow. While it looks neat and I can see the telltale signs of drone work, there is always something a little too perfect with the way they cut hedges. The outside deck looks ideal for relaxing after a long day, and it appears very inviting. I can picture myself kicking back with some drinks after intense training. Only by looking at the other houses bordering Kelbix's, I can tell that it has a slight impersonal feel to it, though. It was as if there was no character beyond the design, no mark that stamped this as a place lived in. Knights could and would, of course, return to their homeworlds and have residences there. The majority would serve on a central KAU base like this. Many even had their families on the base and could continue to live there after they retired, if they so desired. Seeing a house that seems so unloved makes me frown. Maybe he had been off-world for some time. We move towards the door, which pops open with a pleasant sound before it separates into segments and slides into the wall. Kalbix wastes no time in removing his boots before I can jump to do it. I hold my tongue for now. This wolf needs training to accept my help. With the cosmos as my witness, I shall prevail. He takes me through, showing me the various rooms. Study. Kitchen. We will share the bathroom here. His home is tidy, though I am once again struck by how little decor there is. It feels more like a hotel room barely being occupied than someplace really lived in. And here is your room. You can decorate it as you wish. Are those all your belongings? I look at my simple pack that I have that contains pretty much my entire life and nod. It's old, like all my stuff. A single freight strap supports the yellow duffel, which holds only my remaining uniforms and a few changes of clothes for personal time. It's everything worth bringing, and not much to begin with. Thank you, Calbex. I'll get unpacked then. Um, what time should I report for the evening meal? Calbex looks like he's about to say something. Pauses, then gets a strange look in his eyes. Shaking his head, he seems to change his mind and speaks up. Ah, sure. I usually eat at sunset. Until then, you can settle in. Okay, I have work to do. Awkwardly, the wolf turns and then hurries away. With the exit he made, one would think that he was the guest. I get into the room and then put my pack down on the bed. It's wooden, which surprises me. Even if the lupine ethos is to meld with nature where possible, I had assumed that it would have been manufactured furniture, like the synthetic printed bunks that we had in the dorm. The same goes for the small personal desk at the corner of the room. I walk to it and then run my hands over it. It's old. I wonder if the last Squire Calbix had used this. The window offers a nice view into the backyard, where I see a sandy training area. The practice targets look battered, scratched, and well worn. I sit down on the bed to think about the whirlwind of things that have happened today. I'm in the cavalry department. That's good. It's what the plan was. I've been assigned to one of the most decorated knights in the fleet's history. I feel like there's something that I'm missing. He doesn't act like the hotshot that you'd expect. I pull out the STIK and then bring up the Instanet. The feel of it is alien since the update. It takes me a moment to sync all of the new updates and then I'm on. The first search comes up immediately. Captain Kelbix Auriga returns to active duty after suffering heavy damage. Although the article does not go into many details, it appears that Kelbix had to undergo surgery after a severe crash. Shrapnel from his ship was removed all along his left side. I assume that they couldn't save his eye. The article goes on to say that the damage required physio to regain mobility. He then had to retrain in order to show that he could still fight after everything. It was only recently that he had been cleared to resume duty. I frown as I skim through the rest of the article. I expect it to be light on the details, but there really isn't much else to learn from it. Leaning back against the wall, I ponder what I just read. If I'd been through all of that, could I push myself back to the peak of physical condition required for a knight? The medical sector of the KAU is second to none. The fact that he still looks extremely capable is testament to that. It isn't omnipotent, though. There's plenty that even the most advanced sciences can't fully heal, not to mention the mental wounds. Calbex had been through all of that. I'm beginning to understand that maybe his attitude is due to the fact that he doesn't want to look like he needs help. Understandable, but lonely. He needs me. Whether he understands that or not, he needs me and I need him to let me do my part. I have to show him. Although I am alone, hearing my resolve helps me cement my focus on what I am going to do. It is a promise to myself to prove to him and everyone else that I can do this And well, I don't have much, so unpacking is more about organizing my uniforms and placing my civilian clothes away. Whilst my room doesn't have an attached bathroom, it does have a basin. I refresh myself just as the sun starts to set. Walking out of my room and towards the stairs, I am immediately hit by a wave of aroma. My stomach practically leaps out of my throat, and I realize that I haven't eaten since before dawn. I have to control my descent as I round the corner and then enter the kitchen. The tour had been pretty brief, so I hadn't really looked around the room. It's quite humble, really. It's the only room that actually felt more homely. I can see a small table with two chairs tucked against a sliding glass door. It looks out onto the same training area my bedroom looks down on, as well as the rest of the back garden. The kitchen area has a small island that separates it from the dining space. It has a small black sheen on the top and looks to have some function that I am not sure of. The fact that it has some discarded junk and plates scattered on it makes me think that it does not see much use. Calbex has his back to me, moving something around that is releasing bursts of delicious smell. It makes my stomach water in anticipation. Even though I can feel my resistance crumbling, I remind myself that our positions should be very much reversed. I frown at the back of his head. Not that my attention remains there long. My eyes travel down to his broad muscled back to the tail hanging over two buns that... I force my eyes back up as he turns. It would not do so well that my knight finds me leering at him on the first day. Scratch that. In general. Um, hey, shouldn't I be the one cooking for you? I try to avoid blushing as he brings two bowls over to the table. His comfortable demeanor makes him seem much more approachable, and he looks good with a smile. Well, I don't have an assembler here. I never was keen on woven food. I'm used to manually cooking, so don't worry about it. I stare at him, dumbfounded for a beat. I have never seen an assembler before, let alone know how to use one. I've been cooking by hand for a while. Don't let me in with some fancy squires from around here. The wolf just blinks at me, as if he hadn't considered that I knew how to actually cook. He sighs and places the bowls on the table before he takes a seat, gesturing for me to join him. I'm... I'm sorry. It was wrong of me to assume. I sit down opposite to him and internally beg my nose to stop inhaling the steaming bowl of deliciousness before me. I am used to doing things manually, having to relearn how to do things even now, years later. I prefer to do them myself, rather than letting machines do it. He scratches near his implant on his left cheek, and I glance over to it. I am not versed in integrated tech. I bet Morrow's would be much more ecstatic to gaze at it. I understand that. I'm not trying to take over everything, but I do want to be your squire properly, even if it is not every day. Let me take some tasks off your load. I look at him squarely. I still don't have a full read on him, but I can see that he needs his independence as much, if not more, than anyone else. How about we at least make a good show in public? Show me how to squire for you in front of others. When we are off duty, I'll leave you alone. He considers it for a moment. At this point, I am certain that I am being subjected to some form of torture invented to teach squires to go without food, even when presented with so tantalizing a treat. That is a fair offer. I can accept that, and I will do my best for you too. Whilst I am no longer the best knight in the cavalry, I can show you some techniques. Hey, you're my knight. That makes you the best there is. I proclaim proudly, and I see the hint of a smile on his muzzle. He pulls his own bowl closer and then starts to eat. I gladly, finally, start on my own. Lying on the bed, full and content, I feel myself starting to drift. Everything has been more draining than I expected. I can barely keep my eyes open. I fumble with the STIK and eventually bring up a window to type Morrow's a message. I still don't know the restrictions, so I keep it brief, letting him know that I am settled in and everything has gone all right. I get a message back shortly after with a bunch of cute icons. Smiling, I rub the device in my hands. I recall learning how to use it, what the ridges and wheels did, and how it felt to type at first, using the hollow screen as a guide. Before long, it became second nature to use it entirely by touch. I still prefer to read the messages visually when I can, though. After making sure an alarm is set for just before dawn, I place my STIK on the headboard. Then I snuggle into bed. The last thoughts drifting in my mind are of Calbex and his kind, yet distant look and what tomorrow could bring. Ending of Chapter 1. Thank you for playing. Consider leaving a comment on itch.io if you enjoyed it, and join the discussion on our Discord server. An autosave has been created at the end of this chapter. That's very handy, actually. So we are paired with a wounded warrior. I take it that this story might touch on some topics of sort of how some soldiers come home with like disabilities, sometimes missing arms and stuff like that, and even though he clearly has been repaired to some extent, there are still wounds that, as the main character said, cannot be repaired, like, mental wounds. I'm assuming that some of those might have to do with his previous squire. Actually, maybe not. Maybe it does really just have to do with the fact that he either doesn't want to return, either because he doesn't feel confident in his abilities, or because he just wants his independence. He doesn't want a squire. He wants to prove that he really is the wolf or the canine, I'm assuming, the lupine. I forgot the word. That he used to be. So yeah. It would be interesting, though, that if it really does touch on that, on the topic of, the wounded warrior, him having to accept help and perhaps not being so into that idea, and, there being friction because, the squire wants to help, and, he becomes too pushy, then until he realizes that, yeah, maybe I should, have him come to me instead of me being so pushy about it. But yeah. That is the first part. Thankfully, it was kind of short. I was expecting it to be like 2 hours, some stories usually are that long, but I am pleasantly surprised that it wasn't like super long, but that you did get to see everything that you need to know so far. Because sometimes when you read like a visual novel, even after like the first or the second or even the third chapters, you're still sort of going like, well, what is this story about? And right here, you kind of get that sense already. Like, you kind of know that it's going to be a more personal story about these two, which is good. Anyways, art-wise, I really like it. The only reason that I knew about this visual novel was because on Twitter I saw the artwork for Calbex, and he like stood out, and I really like the design. I also really like the design of the guy that was doing the speech and everything, but mostly because of like the purple accents. That's like a really big plus for me. I like purple and green. But yeah. So art-wise, very, very, good. I don't really have any constructive criticism like I do sometimes with some other new visual novels. Uh it's really good so far. I like it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to more, and I might just join their Patreon. So yeah, anyways, so, write down in the comments what you think, and thank you all for watching / listening. If you would like to play in Finite Space yourself, you can do so by going down into the link in the description for the Finite Space Twitter page, which should have a direct link for the itch.io page. And for those that don't know, I refrain from posting itch.io links because of YouTube's policy on, adult content, and even if there is the slightest hint of adult content with the itch.io link, YouTube will send you like a bad YouTuber, bad. You posted a naughty link. And yeah, so I instead link to Twitter, which, links to itch.io. Anyways, as I said before, I do believe they do have a Patreon. I am that scatterbrained right now that if it was just mentioned, I completely forgot about it. But yeah, so Patreon will be linked down in the description for early access, I guess, and whatever else that they decide to offer. And they do have the Discord, as they said. So if you would like to join their Discord for talking about the visual novel, then, go do that. And yeah, so also I have a coffee in case you want to, donate to me. That would be greatly appreciated. So yeah. I guess that's it for now, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.